This podcast is brought to you by the Association for Coaching, one of the world's leading international professional bodies, which is advancing coaching in business and society worldwide. My name is Kate Jenkinson, and I am your host for this wonderful 8-part series, Neurodiversity in the Workplace, where, along with my guests, we explore the rapidly developing landscape that is neurodiversity in work. My guests are industry leaders, coaches, and business founders who share their passion, knowledge, and the real-life situations and scenarios from their own practical lived experience. Together, we examine the complexity of the workplace for those who experience the world differently. Whether you're a business owner, leader, coach, or trainer, these conversations highlight how you can make a difference to everyone's working world by looking at life through a neurodivergent lens. I am delighted to have Mike Bedford of Mike Bedford Coaching join me today to talk about his experience of neurodiversity in organisations and in his own organisation. Mike, welcome.
Hello, Kate. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is absolutely brilliant to see you, Mike. I was just remembering the first time we met. I came back to Yorkshire probably about 4 years ago now. Was doing some networking in the local area, and you were somebody who stood out to me as somebody I really wanted to meet because you were active on LinkedIn, you were talking about neurodiversity, you were very open about how it shows up for you and how it influenced you, and we got together. Do you remember where we were?
Pontefract Castle.
That's right. And it's so significant for me because we had an amazing conversation and I became even more acutely aware that my lived experiences mirrored some of yours and that I had met a kindred spirit. When I was thinking about who I'd like to have as a guest on the podcast, I couldn't think of anyone I'd rather have a conversation more with about all things neurodiversity in the workplace. So we're not quite sure where this conversation is going to take us, really, are we? Where would you like to start?
I think start somewhere and then let the conversation flow wherever it chooses to go, I think.
Okay.
We talked about that, didn't we, before, about how, especially when everyone's completely different, obviously, but for us, we figured out that actually we just follow the flow, don't we?
Yeah.
It takes us on a bit of an adventure sometimes, right?
It does, and we thought, particularly because structure can be useful, but I think it's really important for folks to realise that when neurodivergent brains get together, we like to follow the tangents and the squiggles and the side quests and the side paths, but always with the aim of unconditional positive regard. Was a phrase you really emphasised for me when we met on that day. And it's a coaching phrase, but it's also one that is so important for neuro-inclusion. How has that shown up for you?
First of all, thank you for reminding me about UPR, work obviously of Carl Rogers.
Yeah.
I think it's a really important reflection piece to use whenever you're working with coaching clients, particularly in that space, because what unconditional positive regard does, it says come to a space blank with no judgments and no preconceived ideas, no bias. You start and you meet the person where they are. For me, that's fundamental of coaching. And I think we had that from the first moment that we met, which is where we met. We met from a place of unconditional positive regard. And then we built from there, got to explore, got to find out more about each other. And obviously, we've got our own unique challenges and strengths, which all neurodivergent people have, right? We're not all identical, contrary to some common myths out there. We are all very different people with different needs, different wants, different ambitions, different dreams, hopes, aspirations, and so on and so forth. So starting from a place of unconditional positive regard or a blank canvas, as it were, is a great place to start any conversation, I would say.
Do you know what? I love this already because I did a workshop yesterday and guess what it's called? The blank page.
The blank page.
It's just part of who I am is not to make those assumptions. Why do people find that difficult?
Yeah, I think that's a multifaceted question, isn't it? It's easy to think that as a human you can come in and not have any ideas of what someone else needs or wants and start from a blank page. But I think people are wrapped up in so much other things, aren't they, internally when they're in an organisation, process, HR rules, policies. So all of those things are clouding someone's blank page perspective. They're not coming in with a blank page, are they? They're coming in with a rule book.
They're coming in with a list.
You're not truly ever operating from a position of unconditional positive regard, are you? Unless you're prepared to say, I've seen that, I've heard that, but I'm leaving that at the door.
Yeah.
Then you could say I could come in from a position of unconditional positive regard, but you would have to leave that behind. You can't bring that into the conversation. If you bring that in, or you've got an idea of what you want to get out of this conversation, the conversation is not balanced. You're starting from an elevated position over that person straight away. So it's not an equal partnership. It has to be an equal partnership for it to work.
Yeah. And we talk about it in the workplace. I know it's often described as an HR partner. It's difficult to always know what you're partnering around if the agenda's not explicit. And a lot of us neurodivergent folks struggle with these hidden agendas because we go with what we're told is the outcome that we're looking to achieve. And then if there's anything that is not spoken or not communicated, those are the bits we can fall foul of, aren't they? I know I have.
Yeah, I think we need to know the what, the why, the when in order to be able to get that clarity. I think we're very good at being able to get the outcome, but we need to understand what the purposes of what we're being asked. I certainly do anyway, need to understand the kind of the what, the why, the when. Otherwise, I call them the three was, right? The what, the why, the when. Who doesn't love a good kind of three was or something?
I'm all for it. It sounds poetry to me.
Love it. And for me, it's really essential. It's about clear communication, isn't it, as well? And when you don't have clear communication, it automatically creates ambiguity, and it creates, certainly for me, the space where I'll fill in the blanks. And if I'm filling in the blanks, who knows what the hell I'm going to put in there? It could be absolute doomsday kind of stuff. And this could be just, oh, Mike, can you come and see me in my office at 4:00 or whatever? But with no context behind that, why do you want me to come to your office at 4:00? My first assumption is you want to fire me.
And that's the paradox, isn't it? Because the blank page is something that we thrive within, and yet only if we're with other people who thrive in a blank page environment. Because once you put rules and structure around that, if it doesn't resonate, if it doesn't make sense to us, then it is really difficult for us to know what good looks like, what we're being measured and judged along the way. And we get into this whole kind of area, don't we, of masking and dialing ourselves down maybe, or being shamed by some of the things that are not a natural way for us to be, like times of meetings and that kind of thing. I know time blindness struggle with. So how's that shown up for you? I mean, either as a neurodivergent person in the workplace or supporting others in workplaces, what have you noticed?
I think what I've noticed is, particularly coaching other neurodivergent folks, is the importance of being able to self-advocate for your needs.
Yeah.
And being able to set out, really be open. For me, I'm an open book.
I love that.
I'll go in and this is me, this is who I am, this is what I need, this is what I bring to the table. Whether you like that or you don't, that's not my concern. My concern is it's about me being open and sharing with you, this is who I am, this is what I need. What I've noticed is when I haven't done that, it's gone down the other path where people have just filled in the blanks and often got it wrong. 2 and 2 equals 7.
Yeah.
I'm all about the data, the evidence and the facts. What is it telling you? What does it tell us? So if I'm providing you with the data, with the evidence, we can come together. So if I'm thinking this hypothetically, if I'm having a conversation with a manager, I'm saying, look, this is what I need. This is who I am. We can then start working together. It becomes an equal relationship then, because they don't have all the answers either. They don't know. So it has to be fair to both parties as well. You can only work with what I give you and so on and so forth. So we can at least get together then equally and have a conversation about that, what that looks like, how you can support me and help me to thrive without making lots of assumptions about what is and what isn't. And I guess really, ultimately, when we start working off hypothesis about people, we end up, as I said, getting 2 and 2 equals 7. So for me, it's really important. And what I've noticed about myself and working with others is that importance of being able to self-advocate for your needs, set them out quite clearly, and also being able to put in place some clear non-negotiables as well.
Yeah.
About what are the things that you can't absolutely do? What are the things that I really need that has support on, that I can't budge on? What's the flexibilities? I think it's just really important to be quite open about what you need so that other people can help to support you.
Yeah. So self-advocacy is something that I understand so much better now as a coach than I ever understood as an individual in business. I didn't have the language for it. So I know now that if I was going back into a business role, corporate role, I would need to do that so much more. And I wouldn't need to try and fit into the expectations. What happens to people, though, when we try and do that, I think, is this awful situation of believing fitting in is belonging, and it isn't, and kind of burning out. We get this exhaustion of trying to be something we're not. And I know that's something that every neurodivergent person experiences. I just see it in my coaching practice as well. How has that shown up for you, Mike?
I think definitely being neurodivergent, there's a heightened sense of burnout. And obviously burnout is a process. It takes time and it can happen rapidly or it can happen over a slow period of time. And obviously there's different levels. If we're thinking about burnout as a scale, 1 to 10, 10 being you're falling off the edge of a cliff. 1 being actually you're so coasting that you do need to put a bit of stress in your life.
The boring out rather than the burning out.
Bore out than burnout, and then somewhere in between is a healthy balance between both. I think it's important to recognise when you're sliding dangerously towards the latter end of the scale. If we're talking about burnout, and you don't have to just be employed to burn out, you can be self-employed as well. It shows up in all places. It doesn't discriminate against anyone.
No, and I think you've hit on a really interesting point, because a lot of what I've experienced is people in the workplace. But when you run your own business or coaching practice, the boundaries are harder to maintain. My brain never switches off. It's always constantly running, ruminating, imagining. There's always something happening. And so unless I find a way to switch over to other tasks that are energizing for me, I will burn out in a week, as you just said. Maybe not to that sustained level that I know burnout. So do you have some recommendations? What helps to get you out of that situation? What have you found works for you?
It's a good question. There's a lot depending on you and your own mindset, I think, as well, because if you don't recognize that it's happening as well, you could just fulfill the prophecy, for want of a better word. It's important to have people around you.
So important.
Self-advocacy, in terms of self-advocating with yourself as well as for yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
As well, thinking of coaching others as well as self-coaching. So using your own skills on yourself as well, I think for me has been really important to recognise what non-negotiables am I putting in place for myself and what I'm not. What am I saying yes to too much when I should be saying no?
And that's an interesting point. Until the saying yes to everything actually is undermining your own values or your own self-esteem.
Or your mental health, in my case as well. I think having a group of trusted people around you who you can be open with and share and talk about things is quite important as well. Especially as men, we can be quite guarded about such matters when it comes to our emotional state and mental health and things like that. It's a difficult conversation for us as men often.
And you bring up a really important point, because, like you say, it's not the same for everybody. Who might those people be if you are in a sole practice or if you're inside an organisation? Who's doing that?
That can be difficult, because if you're in a position where you might not have a sense of psychological safety and trust around you, who do you talk to? I think you might feel there is no one to talk to, but I think if you're internally, I'd recommend seeking out support and looking to see what support is available for you through your internal wellbeing offer or your employee assistance program or your mental health first aiders or so on and so forth. Just speak to someone and get some support. Obviously, it's all confidential and anonymous anyway. If you can't don't forget, not everyone is in a position where they can talk to the family as well and family members.
No, that's true.
Or not everyone has lots of trusted friends that they can confide in as well. So I think the most important thing, especially when it comes to mental health, is to be able to find someone that you can talk to and talk things out. And often that really helps, because mental health, obviously, and burnout are quite synchronous with each other as well. So I think it's just really important to reflect on where your head's at as well, and remember to reach out and get some help and support and talk it out with someone.
And that brings to mind a number of situations I experienced myself when I was in the workplace. I did use my own employee assistance program. In fact, I used to introduce them into organisations so that there was that support network. peers sometimes can be very helpful. If you're in a leadership role, family don't often understand neurodiversity well enough to understand you may be having some emotional dysregulation here, and it's not pointed at them and you're just struggling. So yeah, it's finding those points of contact. I'm going to say I've always found poetry helps me.
What works for you? You find poetry. I find swimming helpful. I find swimming and I find going out just randomly walking. I'm very lucky that I live in a semi-rural type village where there's lots of places I can just wander off aimlessly into the woods. I actually find that really helps me.
That's an interesting point. I would like to say I'd noticed you'd done less of your rambling into the local environment posts on LinkedIn. It felt like you've started, I've just reminded me, that was the Mike I met on LinkedIn, was the one who was going out, doing the walk and the talk and just sharing the thoughts. And it was very powerful to see you in your element like that.
That's where I feel I am happy, where I kind of can get some clarity of thought as well. And I think probably when I reflect honestly, I've probably let some of that stuff slide. And I've been obviously having a lot of challenging times in terms of like my business and so on and so forth. So part of letting go of things has to be able to say yes to the things that bring me joy as well. So letting go of some of the big tough things that aren't. Sometimes you have to say no to things that might be really helpful for you too. But actually by doing those things, again, it's going to overwhelm you and take you to a point where you don't need to be.
Honestly, it's such a balance, isn't it? I know you and I have talked about this as well, about just travelling to an event, finding your way there, going into the event where there's a sensory overwhelm. And that's what you need to do when you're trying to build your business. You need to manage that really carefully.
Oh, yeah. It's so easy to want to get to everything.
Yeah, and you can't.
And meet everyone and go to every event. And quite quickly, then you're just going to find yourself out of action because it's going to be too much for you. I know for me, just getting somewhere is I'm knackered by the time I arrive.
Yeah, it's like, and now you want me to speak?
Now I've got to do an event. It takes a lot of careful planning. And again, this is where the setting your own non-negotiables is really important. So if you're going to go to an event, make sure that you're planning enough time around that, giving yourself those buffers and that transition time around that before, during and after as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
To regulate. Otherwise, you're not self-regulating, are you? And no self-regulation equals path to burnout.
Yeah, it's really important. I don't think I can add anything to that other than just know what your boundaries are, and it can feel bad. I've taken a self-imposed gap from being in my social media, but I think that describes the neurodivergent experience perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think social media is such a challenge. It's the ultimate dopamine hit.
It is. Oh, good point.
It's the addiction side of it, which we don't often talk about, of the addiction to social media and our devices and electronic devices. This isn't just a conversation for kids. You just got to take a ride anywhere on the train or anything, and everyone's just like that, aren't they? Now?
That's right.
Because we're hooked.
That's exactly what it was like yesterday. There used to be times I'd travel on the train and have a conversation with a person sitting next to me, but nobody was speaking to anybody. There were voices, but the voices were coming out of electronic devices.
Exactly.
And that in itself, that disembodied voice is dysregulating, probably not just for neurodivergent people, but for others thinking, what's that? What's happening?
I think there's definitely needs to be a shift more towards finding a more healthy balance with technology for all of us. And obviously it's been just big business for these social media providers to have us addicted to social media and to gadgets and to devices because they're paid to have us looking and scrolling and endlessly checking our content and whatnot and so on and so forth, and luring us in with kind of dopamine hits and by getting impressions and likes and whatnot. And it's just like a vacuum. It's sucking us in and churning us out. But I know that's contributed towards me feeling like I'm burning out. The sheer time of the amount of time spent on social media. And then actually, if you just stop for a minute and say, what if I stopped this for a day? The reality is I'm going to get more time back in my life. I'm going to be more present and be able to do more things that mean more to me. And I know that's not easy, but that's part of breaking addiction as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm addicted. I'm absolutely honest. I'm open about it. I am addicted to social media and to technology. I've become addicted to LinkedIn, and now I'm trying to break that addiction. I don't think I'm going to go cold turkey. I'm not saying I'm going to go cold turkey on it, but I am going to start having more clear and non-negotiables with myself about what's a healthy balance of this? What can I do to still show up and engage with people, but not just be constantly picking up my phone and checking, oh, has anyone done this? Has anyone commented? Has anyone liked? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Do I need to kind of get another post in to do? It can just become a self-fulfilling addiction prophecy then, can't it?
Yeah, it can, and it is feeding that dopamine. Sometimes it gives you the quick feel good if a post doesn't go anywhere, which is what's happening at the moment. So yeah, there's definitely a balance there. I was actually at an event yesterday where somebody asked me, how many times does the average person pick up their phone?
Oh, it'd be horrible. Horrible.
So he said 2,500 times a day.
Oh,
I said 500. I was like below the actual. That's huge.
You've inspired me to not check my phone now until later this afternoon. I think if I can set myself that non-negotiable, like, no, I'm not going to look on my phone until at least 2:00. Just check, quick bang, put it back down again, I think. And in the meantime, what's that going to give me? After our call, maybe I'd have just picked up my phone and spent a bit of time on my phone. No, forget that. I'm going to go out and take a walk.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. So I did a little thing. I don't know if this is, I create these ways to be more intentional. And we love post-it notes, don't we? We love these like little. So each time I wanted to go on my phone, I consciously thought, why am I reaching for my phone? What do I want to do? And I've written it on the post-it note. And I've waited until I've got 5 genuine things I really want to do on my phone, not just, oh, what time is it? It's real things that I can only use my phone for. I've waited till I've got 5, and then I've picked it up and done those 5 things. And that was really interesting because the thing, as a neurodivergent person, it'd be like, I can't remember. Some of them were just finding out about a rabbit hole, a question. But I'd write the question down. And as the question sat there, it was like I was much more intentional.
What have you noticed when you're not picking your phone up?
I still need to be moving. And for me, movement, I used to knit a lot. I used to do creative things. So this year alone, I've done 2 tapestries and I've knitted some outfits and I've nearly finished a jumper for my husband. And normally these things would take several months to years because I get distracted. Literally gonna, from start to stop, have knitted a jumper for him in probably 2 months. Honestly, and I've got visible productive outcomes as a result of that.
You've got time back.
Yeah, I've got time, creativity, enjoyment, because I knit while I'm sitting with my husband while he watches television. So there's companionship. It's interesting what happens when we decide to put those boundaries in place. And when I've felt the burnout, the sort of tiredness coming, that's when I've made the time for the activities, like you just said. I play badminton, that's my activity, or I walk the dog. It's stuff we know, we just distract ourselves from doing.
We neglect.
Yeah.
What would you say burnout feels like for you when you're noticing it?
I don't laugh as much. So when you said to me, it's people in the environment that tell you, they will say to me, I can remember when I left my last corporate role, Mike, it was in the middle of the pandemic. And apart from the fact that I was falling asleep on my husband's shoulder as we were looking out at the view overlooking Bridlington, I think it was. I love the sea. I literally fell asleep on his shoulder. But he told me that when I left that corporate role, he hadn't heard me laugh for he couldn't remember when he last heard me laugh. And I'm somebody who loves life, enjoy finding the fun. And that to me was so important. So I laugh, I smile more, have more conversations with people, and all of that just disappears. I go into freeze mode. We talk about fight, flight, freeze, and fawn mode. As neurodivergent people, we occupy all of those survival states. We just usually occupy a different one at different times. And I was in that freeze mode where I wouldn't associate with people. I would hunker down. So yeah, I'm doing that less. But I think we're always on the boundary of going into those survival states, aren't we?
It's a tipping point, isn't it, being neurodivergent always? It doesn't matter if you're employed, does it, or whether you're self-employed. Like we said earlier, burnout doesn't discriminate. It can come for you at any point, at any level, wherever you are. So it's really important, isn't it, to recognise and listen to yourself. I think I would probably reflect what I've noticed is I've perhaps not listened to myself. I'm the greatest problem solver for others.
But
the
we
best,
all
second to none.
Yeah.
Solving my own stuff is another challenge entirely.
Well, this is why we need coaches, isn't it?
But I think just to reflect on what you were saying there, I can totally resonate with that. And I would add, I notice my body just feels like it aches.
Oh, wow.
I can feel it. It's no fluidity to it. I feel like I'm constantly aching, and I just withdraw into myself, deeply withdraw.
That was the word I was looking for, withdraw. I do that.
I shrink into myself, into the darkest crevices of my soul, I think. And when I'm noticing that happening, that's not me. Like you, I'm someone who enjoys life, really, and my family is everything to me. And when I'm noticing that I'm not enjoying that and I'm not being present with my family and so on and so forth, I notice something is wrong, but I don't think I've taken notice of that in all of the things that were going on in my work, in my life, in my business. And so just focused on that I didn't stop for a moment and think about, what do you need?
And as you say that now, this is how you are feeling at the moment, isn't it? This is where you are a bit at the moment.
I'm in a really reflective mode, I think, at the moment. And I'm reflecting on what are the things I didn't reflect on in the heat of the moment, right?
That's brilliant.
True coach. And I think when I met my friend Susie yesterday, and she said, Mike, she goes, do you know what makes you a really good coach? And I said, no, tell me. She says, is that you don't seem like you're coaching. It's just so natural and so fluid. And for me, I think that's where I'm in my happiest, when I'm just fluid. And I noticed when I start to think about these things and think about what I've been through and what I'm going through, I didn't listen to myself. I didn't stop for a moment and just pause. And when I'm coaching others, that would be my coaching. I'd be saying, what are you noticing? What is yourself telling yourself? And what's going to happen if you don't stop and pause? And all these things that I give others on a daily basis, I didn't apply them to myself. And it's easy to say that, isn't it, in hindsight? I think reflection for me is really important as well in all that I do, and learning from those reflections as well. I think one of my biggest learning points is that never forget to prioritize yourself in all of those things. Whatever happens, don't forget you. You're at the core of everything that happens. If you don't look after you, nothing else matters, to quote Metallica.
Oh, yeah, let's get the Metallica quote in there. Definitely. I like that. And a bit like a stick of rock, let's get the Yorkshire seaside references in as well. One of my biggest learnings is very aligned to what you just said there. First of all, I just had to laugh at the reflecting on the reflecting bit, because that felt very meta. That was very cool. But I had a limiting self-belief, which coaching surfaced for me, which was, I'm not as important as everyone else. I'd learned that. I wasn't. Everyone else had better ideas of how things should be done, and I was doing them the wrong way. And I think it was the neurodivergent shame that we internalise. And it didn't feel right to think that I was more important than everyone else, because I don't believe that. But I changed it to, I'm at least as important as everyone else. And that gave me the ability to put some boundaries in place. But it still wasn't good enough, Mike. What you just said really resonates. Why I think working for myself has become the empowerment I needed is I put myself at the centre of my life. And that's not about importance, because actually that's a neurotypical construct. A neurodivergent one is about being authentically yourself. And if you put yourself at the centre of your life, then you make happen what you need to have happen.
What do you think someone who then is in a position where they're employed can do in that situation?
Well, I know as an HR person that it is possible to craft a job that works around your strengths. So, as you said, it's advocating for yourself to work more in your areas of strength and contribute your strengths to others that don't have maybe the insight or creativity that you've got. That's why I think if I went back into the workplace now, I would be having a whole lot of different conversations with my managers and my peers, because I've learned so much in my coaching practice, and I train other people on this now, strengths and team development. But like you say, I never did it for myself. I moulded around everybody else's needs. I was that people-pleasing, I'll do whatever it takes, I'll rise to the challenge, I'll achieve the impossible with no time to deliver it. And often did at my own expense. So what I would do differently is appreciate that operating in your areas of strength can seem easy, but it's usually the thing that adds the most value, and it keeps you well.
Yeah.
What would you do?
I think first and foremost, be absolutely open about who I am.
Yeah.
I think just be completely open and authentic about who I am and what I bring. I think the self-advocation about, and I'm going to say it, and I know this will make you smile, about what success enablers do I need
Exactly.
in the workplace. Success enablers are all of those things that enable you to thrive. It might be a piece of equipment. It might be having better conversations, having better communication with those around you. It might be the hours or how you work and your ways of working.
Could be so many things.
Yeah, there's so many different angles and ways that could go, right? Again, it's about knowing that ancient saying about know thyself.
I don't know. To thine own self be true.
Something along that side, know thyself or whatever. If you don't know yourself, you're never going to truly be able to get what you need to thrive as well. So there's some inner work to be done on yourself to know that you don't necessarily have to have all of the answers, but it's about being able to advocate with, if you're thinking about this in an employed perspective, to be able to be brave enough and authentic enough to advocate with your manager or your team to get in place the things that you need and to be able to work with them to find out what are the things that you don't have, what are the things that they need from you also. Because again, don't forget, it's a partnership.
Two-way. Yeah.
And often perhaps we get in a bit of a bubble in the neurodiversity space thinking others just know what we need.
It's easy to do, actually. I've noticed this because when you surround yourself with people who are neurodivergent, you get into this way of being, and it's not deliberate. And therefore, I can really appreciate how organisations get into this kind of groupthink. The majority is the way it should be done. I can really understand that, having surrounded myself with neurodivergent thinkers, because for me now, it would be natural. If I went into a workplace now and there was no body doubling and there was no flexibility about start and finish times and we didn't have clear deadlines, and we weren't really proactive in partnering people up and working as teams, I wouldn't tolerate that now. And I didn't know I needed it when I was in the corporate world. I mean, body doubling as an HR director, what does that look like? Because you're in an office usually on your own, or you're working from a home office. Teams and Zoom have given us this body doubling dimension that didn't exist for a long time. I was the noisy person in an office environment that was irritating everyone else because I didn't know how to structure body doubling. But now that I know what that is, I wouldn't operate without it.
Well, look at us. Look at the work that, just throwing it out there, me and you are writing a book.
Yes.
But we're doing it in such a way that we've kind of experiment, don't we? And we find what works for us. And part of that is that kind of body doubling and getting together and just really getting through a lot in a short space of time, but just bouncing off each other. That's a good way to be able to do that for us.
Yeah. I bet if we were to look at the way that it ought to be done, it probably should be broken down into little bits and each of us go away and work on them and then collaborate and put them together. That's never going to work for us, is it?
No, but we'll still get there and we'll still write a book and we'll still publish a book. What does it matter? How you get to the destination, as long as you get to the destination.
As long as somebody said to me, as long as it's legal, what are the boundaries in coaching? As long as it's legal, it doesn't harm anybody and it's a positive, it's good, it's okay, as long as it's legal and not life-threatening.
I think we've tried a few things, haven't we? And when we met up and we get together, we just want to chat and have coffee, don't we? And the book almost becomes second place.
I think we need to redefine our purpose, Mike. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. When we get together on the body doubling type of call, we just hit it, don't we?
Yeah.
It's about just finding what works for you, isn't it?
It is.
But being able to be brave enough to be able to say, these are some of the things that I need in order to get that thing done.
Yeah, absolutely. We're such paradoxes, aren't we? We've said we need no ambiguity, but actually give us a blank page. We've said just leave us to it, but actually we're better when we body double.
Yeah.
We can see this is a difficult topic, but if there was one thing, just one thing that you would recommend people take away and use as a success enabler in the future, what might that be?
I think make sure that you are open and honest about what you need with people. I think if you don't do that from the beginning, you're setting yourself up for failure. If you're not able to set out what you need in order to get things done, for whatever reason, you're only going to set yourself up for failure. So whatever those success enablers are, put it out on the table. And someone can only say no. Yeah. But if someone says no, there has to be a reason behind saying no as well.
I used to have a phrase in HR, which is no is the first step towards a yes.
But ask.
Yes.
I guess the message is ask.
Yeah.
I think growing up, the old saying is if you don't ask, you don't get.
True.
It's so true. You can only ask and they can only say no. That's universally applicable, whether that's employed or whether that's self-employed. Just make sure that you get what you need in order to be able to thrive and to succeed in whatever it is that you do, whether that's making time for yourself, having breaks in the day, whether that's you're taking time out, whether that's more fluidity around how you start and finish your working day, whatever that is, just make sure that you put those things in place and you stick to those things, and those things become your non-negotiables.
I'll tell you what one of mine is, Mike, is having conversations like this. More of them. Thank you so much for being our guest today. I know that we've literally just scratched the surface of things we love to talk about. Neurodiversity in the workplace and coaching is a huge passion area for both of us. But I want to thank you as a guest. I want to ask, is there anything else you feel you'd like to add? Anything that you wished you'd said? Now's your parenthetical moment.
Don't. Yeah. Remember what the T-shirt says, and this is quite controversial in the neurodiversity space anyway, but I identify with it, and that's my choice. I don't say anyone else has to, but yeah, I identify as being neurospicy, and I'm proud of that because I feel that says something about who I am and all those different things that are going on for me in my head at any one time. They don't all define who I am. They're part of who I am, but they equally contribute to making me who I am and that journey.
I like that. In the parentheses at the end, you've just said language is personal, and ask people what language they use to describe and define themselves. And to me, this is just respect. It's like asking somebody, I know your name is Michael Bedford, but you're Mike to me. And I don't know if you know, but I'm Catherine, and I'm not Catherine to anybody.
I do. I've never called you that ever. Equally, unless I've done something seriously to upset you, don't ever call me Michael.
Me and you the same. That's our childhood coming back to haunt us.
But yeah, absolutely, I'd say that comes back down to unconditional positive regard, right? About respect how someone wants to identify themselves as well. When people try to police the language and their identity, if someone wants to call themselves neurodiverse and they identify as that, let it be. That's their prerogative. Might not be the literally thing to say or whatever, but if that's them and that's how they feel and they identify, that's fine. I think we get better results when we respect each other and we let each other just ebb and flow and feel who you are and what that means to you.
And as a poet, I think I love words and I love language and I love the fact it can open up possibilities. It's a shame when we use it to close them down, I think, and label and limit people. So yeah, that was our parenthetical moment. We're just going to draw the other end to that.
Don't get me wrong, labels are useful for tins of beans. Let's leave it.
Oh, they're useful. Do you know that advert, Ron Seal, does exactly, I don't know if we can say that, but does exactly what it says on the tin?
Other varnishes are available. I think that's what they say, isn't it?
Yeah, but there isn't other types of tea, let's be honest, Mike.
Not a shameless plug.
I'm sure we'll get away with that.
Other tea. For anyone listening who disagrees, you're wrong. Yorkshire tea is the best tea ever. And
I think on that point of absolute agreement is probably where we should end. And thank you so much for being my guest today. That was just amazing.
Really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to another podcast by the Association for Coaching. For over 20 years, our purpose has been to inspire and champion coaching excellence, advance the coaching profession, and make a sustainable difference to individuals, organisations and society. To find out more about the AC and our member benefits, follow us on LinkedIn or visit our webpage at associationforcoaching.com, where you can explore our digital learning hub and enjoy our extensive library of on-demand webinars, podcasts, and a portfolio of live events featuring thought leadership tools, models, and the very latest industry trends to help you develop your coaching expertise.